the third day in section 5-6, and we are still writing equations in slope-intercept form. So similar to yesterday, we were giving you the slope and the y-intercept and asking you to write the equation, but today, this is the second type. We're giving you the slope and a point on the line. So please make sure you write down everything on this slide, and if you want to color code, then you can to help. So to write an equation in slope-intercept form, which remember is y equals mx plus b, given the slope and a point on the line, you need to plug in the slope for m and the point that you're given for the x and y in order to solve for b. Once you've found b, then you're going to plug the slope in for m that you were given in the original problem and the y-intercept that you just found for b. So in the example, and here's where the color coding comes into play, you can see that m equals 1 is given to you, as well as the ordered pair 2, 1. Well, I'm not told what b is today, so I have to use this ordered pair in order to find b. So if we write y equals mx plus b, you'll see that b is what we're trying to find, so that will stay blue throughout the problem until we find it. The m is 1. So remember that the 1 will go in front of the x. But in this instance, x and y, you could think of those as being any ordered pair that is on the line will work in the equation. So we're going to plug the 2 in for the x and the 1 in for the y. And you can see that happening here. Here's the y part of the ordered pair equals the slope times the x part of the ordered pair plus b, which is what we don't know. So you're going to multiply 1 times 2 to get 2. So 1 equals 2 plus b. And then you can see that we subtract 2 from both sides. And that's how we get that b equals negative 1. Once you've found the b, then you have to go back and write the equation using the slope from the original problem plus the y-intercept that you just found to write y equals 1x minus 1. And we will look at several examples of this today and also probably spend a couple of days on the topic. So your directions here are to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b given the slope and the point on the line. So the slope is negative 2 and the point on the line is 3, 0. So what does that mean? First, let's write slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So the m is going to be negative 2, the x will be 3, and the y will be 0. Just like in an ordered pair, it's x, y. So plugging in, we plug in the 0 for the y. So I'm going to replace the y with a 0. Bring down the equal sign. My m given in the problem is a negative 2. The x from the ordered pair is a 3, and I like to use parentheses here because oftentimes we deal with negative numbers, so that means I'm going to multiply, plus b. b is what we don't know. This is what we're trying to solve. So 0 equals, I need to do negative 2 times 3 to get negative 6, plus b. And if you're trying to get b by itself, you're going to add 6 to the other side. Remember, we're adding because it's a negative 6. 0 plus 6 is 6, and 6 equals b. Now you're not finished here, because now we need to take the slope that we were given and the y-intercept that we just found, excuse me, and write the equation like we did yesterday. So that would be y equals negative 2x plus 6. The negative 2 coming from the slope we were given, and the 6 coming from what we solved for the y-intercept. So let's look at another example. Here we have m equals negative 1, and our line goes through the ordered pair 0, negative 2. So again, we're going to use that ordered pair. We're going to label it x, y, so we remember which number goes where. So if we have y equals mx plus b, and I like to write this so I can see where I'm plugging the pieces in. The y part of the ordered pair is negative 2, and it's equal to the slope, which is negative 1, times x, the x part of the ordered pair is 0, and I bring down the plus b because I don't know what the y-intercept is. That's what we're trying to solve. So we get negative 2 equals, negative 1 times 0 is just 0 plus b. 0 plus b is just b, or you could think of it as subtracting 0 to the other side, but in any case you get negative 2 equals b. So now again we have the slope that we were given in the problem, and we have the y-intercept that we just found to rewrite our equation. Y equals negative 1x minus 2. So the negative 1 is coming from the slope. Remember, another way to say this is y equals just negative x. So please understand that negative x and negative 1x are the same thing, minus 2. In the next example, we have slope of negative 1/5 and the ordered pair negative 10, 4. So if we write y equals mx plus b, remember an ordered pair is always x comma y, so we're plugging a 4, this 4 in for the y, bring down the equal sign, my slope is a negative 1/5, and the x is a negative 10, and then I bring down the plus b. So I've plugged in the y, 4 for y, negative 1/5 for slope, or m, and negative 10 in for x. Now I need to multiply negative 1/5 times negative 10. And this can be some side work that you do. So if I come up to the top and I do negative 1/5 times negative 10, I'm going to put 10 over 1 so that I can multiply them as fractions. Going across the top, 1 times 10 is 10. Going across the bottom, 5 times 1 is 5. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I get 10 over 5, and you always want to make sure you reduce that. 10 over 5 is 2. So negative 1/5 times negative 10 is positive 2. Now I need to bring down the plus b. Solve for b by subtracting 2 from both sides, and that gives me 2 equals b. So again, using the slope from the original problem, negative 1/5, I'm going to plug that in for m, and finding a y-intercept of b, so I'm going to add 2 onto the back. So the equation of the line that has a slope negative 1/5 and goes through the point negative 10, 4 is y equals negative 1/5 x plus 2. This is the last example today, so we have a slope of 0 and the point is 3, 7. So when we write y equals excuse me, mx plus b, the 3 is the x, the 7 is the y. We're going to plug in 7 for y, 0 for m, and 3 for x. So when we solve, we get 7 equals 0 plus b. And as we talked in an earlier example, 0 plus b is just b. So we get the y-intercept of 7. Now we write the equation using slope 0 and y-intercept 7. That gives us y equals 0x plus 7. And remember, we discussed in class that if you didn't want to write the 0x, you could just say y equals 7. Next, you'll be working on worksheet 5-6C. Please make sure that you show your notes to the substitute. And if the worksheet is not completed, it will be homework. Also on the worksheet, you will be asked to graph, similar to how we were graphing from 5-6B.